We go through grief no matter who you are, whether you love sports, hate sports, whether you are rich or poor, black or white, doesn't matter. We all go through grief at some point or another. Back in June 1997, I would say that I experienced one of the lowest points in my life. And that was the loss of my mother. She was only 59 years old and she had some complications from diabetes. It was not something that we expected. It was, we were expecting her to make it through. And we just were shocked that she passed away. And that was probably the first time that I experienced grief in such a devastating way. I felt helpless. I felt anger. I felt a lot of things. And I'm doing this video because I know that many of you have experienced grief, and many of us will experience grief because grief is something that we experience when we lose someone who is very dear to us. We lose a pet that is dear to us. We experience grief also when we lose uh, someone from a relationship that we had. So there's a lot of different ways that we can experience grief. We can also experience grief when we lose a job or a career that's been very important to us. So grief is something that touches all of us in some way or another. So I hope that the things that I share today will help you navigate the very challenging and difficult feelings that all of us go through when we lose someone or something very significant to us. And most researchers have said that there's different stages of grief. Some people say it's not necessarily stages, but you experience these different things as you go through grief. You could experience anger, as I spoke about before. You experience denial, where you're just saying, I can't believe it. This did not happen. I remember when my mother passed away, the night before, I knew she was gone. But the next morning, it was a bright, sunny June morning, and it was like, wait a minute, is my mother really gone? And there's something that happens when you lose someone, is that you're really depressed. You're really depressed. You're discouraged. You feel helpless. You feel hopeless. You want to isolate yourself. You want to just stay away from people because not many people will be able to relate to you at that point. And then you hope to get to a point where you find meaning in the person's departure, where you're saying, how and why did this happen? And you're hoping that somehow you will get to a point where you're going to make the life of that person mean something. So that's something that's called bargaining. And then also you get to a point where you accept the grief. You accept the loss. You accept that this is going to be a new way of life. And those are all the different things that people can go through. Some people can get stuck in certain places. Some people could just remain depressed for a long time. Some people can be in denial for a long time. And some people can go straight to getting to a point where they go, okay, I can see how I'm going to make my mother's life count, or her passing something that benefits other people. My wife and I, we have done and continue to help people with grief. We have done that for over 10 years. We've been ministers, full-time ministers at some point, and so we had to help a lot of different people through that. We also have done some meetings, some groups where we talked to a group of people and gave them the opportunity to share what they were going through, created a safe place for them to discuss their grief. So I'm going to share some things that have made a difference for me. When my mother died, when my mother died, and I mean, this is a long time ago, but I still have feelings about that. But when my mother died, when she passed away, um, I remember one of the things that I said to myself was, what do I do now with all these memories? What do I do now with all these thoughts? And one of the things that happens is to your brain is that your brain is saying, you're you've been interacting with this person every day. I mean, I would call my mother practically every day to see how she's doing, encourage her, etc. But your brain now is saying you can't just stop and erase all that memory, all that interaction. And so it's like, what do you do with that? And so one of the things that helped me is that I decided I'm going to thank God for her. Every time I think about her, I'm going to thank God that He blessed me with a mother who made such a difference in my life, a mother who I loved so much that when she was gone, she left a big hole in my heart. Even though our mind is saying we wanted that person to be around longer, we can still say, but I'm thankful that I did have that person, because not everybody has a mother that they grew up with. Not everybody has a father that they grew up with. Not everybody has siblings that they grew up with. So not everybody had a pet that made such a difference in their lives. Or if you're grieving about something really important that you lost, a house, a job, you could also thank God that you did have that job that was so significant and so important to you. Now, the difference about losing a person and losing a job is that when you lose a person, that one you just go, unless God comes back and resurrects people, or I go also, I die also, I will not see that person. In terms of a job, you may not get the same exact job again, or you may get that job again. There's a little more control that you have in terms of being able to get another job, and things that are materialistic, things that are physical in nature, um, or I should say, things that are not alive. You can get those things back, but there's when you lose them, though, it's still very painful, and you still have to work through the emotions and figure out how to go forward the best. Okay, my wife and I, we have done and continue to help people with grief. We have done that for over 10 years. We've been ministers, full-time ministers at some point, and so we had to help a lot of different people through that. We also have done some meetings, some groups where we talked to a group of people and gave them the opportunity to share what they were going through, created a safe place for them to discuss their grief. And so the other thing with grief is that it feels like you're carrying this big bag of pain around with you every single day. It's not like you could leave it at the door, or you could put it away when you're going to bed, or you could just say, all right, I'm just going to put it on a shelf, close the closet, and it's gone. It's like no matter where you go, no matter what you have to do, you just go, oh, this is heavy. And that's probably one of the things that makes people just stay home, stay in a bed, because they're going, there's no way I can go shopping with this pain and this weight on me. There's no way I can go to work right now. There's no way I can go to the park. Things that you normally enjoy that just don't matter because you feel like something's been robbed from you. Something that has helped me in dealing with the grief is that I realized that since she died in June, that when it got very hot and humid, I would feel discouraged or depressed or feel like I'm experiencing the same thing all over again. And it was good for me to realize that because I could say, I know what's going on. And for you, it might be wintertime, it might be a rainy day. The day that you lost that person and the conditions around that day really makes a difference because it's almost like it's a repeat of the experience of when you lost a person or when you lost your pet. All those things are very important to be aware of. Of course, for me, I'm a person that reads the Bible and I pray. I decided that while I am going through a very difficult time in my day, that I'm going to pray for strength. And for me, amazingly, I was like, wow, just being able to say, I'm going to pray for strength, helped me. And I think I got that idea because there's a passage in the Bible, 2 Corinthians chapter 12, where it says that God's power is made perfect in weakness. And I said, you know what? This is feeling really weak. I'm going to pray for God's power to help me through this time. And it did work for me. I also kept asking, why did this happen? But then I also realized, you know what? God never told me, once I realized that I have a mother and I interacted with her every day, God never told me that I would have my mother forever. It helped me to go, okay, for every single one of us, there's a start date and an end date. It's hard to think about it that way, but really, I had to say, God had decided my mother would be a person that came to earth on May 22nd when she was born, and that she would leave on June 25th when she died. And so I realized that in my head, I was thinking she's here forever. I think all of us would want to think that the ones that we love will be here forever, but the reality is they're not. I think the other thing that makes grief very difficult when you lose someone is that the person transitions to another realm that has a door where the door has been closed. We cannot open the door of death and go, how's it going in there? How are you doing? I'll be there one day. We can't do that. And so it's so final. It feels so final when it happens. Of course, if you are a person who believes in God and you're reading the Bible, you know that there's a resurrection at some point. And for me, I thought about that also a lot after my mother passed, but it was still me trying to grapple with the idea that the door is closed and I cannot communicate with her anymore. I cannot see her anymore. Of course, some people have dreams. I've had dreams of her, but most people, it's just so final. You feel like it's so final. I believe that's why grief is so painful, is because we are faced with a situation where we cannot control it. We cannot control what's happened. And so we're left to figure out how we will live going forward with this pain. Another thing that's helped me is to decide that I'm going to take it one day at a time. I'm going to live for today, and I'm not going to say, well, what's going to happen tomorrow? How am I going to feel tomorrow? I'm just going to say, okay, today I'm going to make the best of today. I think it's important to get in touch with your feelings when you're going through grief. You need to tell God. And most people, when we see that we're losing a member to whatever situation, we get really angry at God. And it's fine to say to God, God, I'm really upset with you. I feel let down. I feel discouraged. I feel like you did not answer my prayer. I feel like I earnestly prayed, or I wanted this to happen and you let me down. And, just be honest. The other thing is, you don't want people to decide on your limit as to how long you will grieve. Don't let anybody tell you, wow, it's been 6 months, you're still grieving. That's not their business. That is your issue. That is your pain. And so you need to take as long as you need to take to get past it. And I don't know if people really ever get past it, because I mean, it's been a long time since my mother passed away. I still feel some pain about it. I feel a lot less pain than when she first passed away, because I've worked through it a lot in terms of my emotions. It's good for you to really see, what is it that you're feeling? Do you feel discouraged? Do you feel hopeless? Do you feel helpless? And find out, what is it that you can control? I feel hopeless and helpless because she's not here anymore. Okay, maybe you could do something where you get with other people who knew your loved one, and you can have a memorial, you can have a time of sharing. You could just have a time where you say, let's talk about how he was important to us, or how she made a difference in our lives. I've gotten with my family, and one of the things that we did was we talked about uh, our favorite stories from our mom, or we talked about the favorite foods that she made, and we also got together and brought food that reminded us of her and how she used to make the food. So one of the things that I made is I made Haitian meatballs, which I used to love when she made it. And I had to go into my memory and, as best as possible, to make the meatballs the way she used to make it. And surprisingly, it turned out tasty. So those are the things that are meaningful. You find ways to memorialize or to relive the person that you find so special. because your brain is still trying to process, what are you doing with this memory? What are you doing with these feelings of love, affection that you have for this person? As you process your emotions, you'll see that the grief gets less and less. Some people decide that they're going to do a scholarship in honor of their loved one, or they decide that they're going to make a garden in honor of their loved one. But something that they could say the memory or the person lives on in a different way. I realize that for me, one passage in the Bible that has made a big difference for me is Romans chapter 5. Romans chapter 5 talks about how suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope, and hope does not disappoint us. So for me, I realize, okay, when I'm suffering, it teaches me to be a person that doesn't quit. So I persevere. I decide I'm going to get up today. I'm going to do something meaningful today. I'm going to force myself to do what I know is important to do, and I'll get better at it each day. So I'm persevering. I'm not quitting, even though it's difficult to do. And then it says, perseverance develops character. And so the more I persevere, the more I become a man of character, meaning I develop great habits that help me better to navigate through life. So my character grows. And then it says that character develops hope. And so when you're a person that's learned to persevere through trials day by day by day, you also become a hopeful person. You don't give up easily. And so that's something I realized about grief, is that for me, it was a type of suffering that led me to have greater character and to be a hopeful person. And when you're a hopeful person, you could also help people. There's a passage in the Bible that talks about, I think it's 2 Corinthians chapter 1. It talks about how the God of all comfort comforts us in all our troubles, but then we can get comfort so that we can comfort other people. So because my wife and I have gone through very challenging things, we can turn around and comfort other people. So that's the thing that I realized about grief, is that it can serve to toughen you, strengthen you, and transform you into a person that you probably have always wanted to be. But I think for many of us, it's not something that we would choose to experience. In some way, I've been chosen to experience this. What can I go to go through it and survive it? And what can I go to get on the other side of it so that I can be even better as an individual and make a difference with other people? I hope that this has helped you to get some inkling of what you can do to navigate through the grief. And you may know somebody who's going through grief, and share this video with them and let them know that this could help them. If you have a question, or this touched you in a way that made a difference, leave a comment and let me know. And you'll get through it. You'll be able to get to the other side. It is possible to get to the other side of this. It's not the end of the world as we would want to feel, or as we can feel, because there is another side of it. There is a way to get through this, but you just want to take it one day at a time until you get to a point where you say, I feel like I'm moving forward. And the amazing thing about this is that even when you're moving forward, it doesn't feel like a victory. Each step that you take that makes you move forward in your life, as you carry this pain, the bag of pain gets smaller and smaller, and then your life gets bigger and bigger again, where you can experience things that bring you the joy that you want to experience. As I said before, leave comments, share this video if it helped you, or if you know it's going to help someone, share it with them. And I hope to hear from you in the comment section.
If you like what you saw and you'd like to see more in the future, subscribe.